It's me, Sean Capri, and welcome to We the GamerCast. It publishes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and YouTube.com/Carpool Gaming every single Monday. Thank you for being here, for telling your mom and all your friends and your dad and his friends and your uncle as well. Thanks for telling everybody that you know. I feel like I did the intro different. I don't know exactly what I think I went back like a year of doing the thing. Like, it publishes on YouTube. I don't even know, man. Thanks for being here, for leaving comments below. This is one of the few shows at Carpool Gaming that publishes as a video on demand. We don't do this live at all. So thanks for leaving comments. YouTube.com/Carpool Gaming, and I'm feeling in a good mood, guys. We got a good episode for you. I had a week off last week, but I'm getting a little far ahead of myself because if you're new, here's the deal. Every week I have sweet hangs with a stranger from the internet. And if you want to be on the show in about 4 or 5 months, you just tweet at me at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. You can let me know what you think of the show. And one of the best things that happens actually is, and I'll get into this in a little bit, when you listen to the show and listeners contact the guests and they tweet at the guests and say, hey, I was listening to you on We the GamerCast and I enjoyed it. I'm telling you, man, that's one good way. A really easy, it's free, by the way. It's a free way to let somebody else know that you appreciate them and to make their day. I'm telling you guys, we're here to make the world a more positive place. I'm so glad that you guys are here. I'm glad that you're still sticking around, by the way, because I was not here last week and I feel like right off the start I need to address this. I was how do I say it? I was not in a good space last weekend, not even a little bit. And it sucked because it was a long weekend. We had Friday off. We celebrated Canada's birthday, and this happens every year. This is how birthdays work. Canada's birthday's on the 1st of July, America's birthday's on the 4th of July, and the rest of the world just like wonders what the heck is going on with North America. It's like, what are we all doing here? We're lighting off fireworks. We're wondering what to do with ourselves. But yeah, man, I don't know. I every once in a while, I guess I just kind of like collapse under all of the stuff. And I was just kind of like, I was not in a good spot, both in content creation, I don't think, and just in life in general. I was not in a good spot. So, and probably one of the worst parts about it, actually, and I've got to make this up. Obviously missed the show. Appreciate you guys understanding that. And for any of you who didn't see the post on Twitter or on Discord, just not having a great time. Just needed a bit of a break. Needed a recharge over the weekend, and I've got that. So that's the good news is that I got what I needed out of it. But the bad news is I missed a week of the show. That sucks. And like I said, the worst part about it really is that I ended up having to cancel on what would have been a really wonderful show and a sweet hang with Marcus O'Neill. And I'll make that up to you, my friend. I feel horrible about it. I know you're understanding. I know everybody's understanding. That doesn't really stop me from feeling how I feel and dealing with all that kind of stuff, but we'll get through it, my friend. And so I just wanted to be open and honest with you guys about that. Every once in a while, this kind of happens, I guess. And I need to be this, like I said, it happens every once in a while. And every time it does happen, I say to myself and to you, usually I'm podcasting about it, is I need to schedule breaks. I don't need breaks to sort of like happen out of necessity, out of like a crisis kind of moment. I need them to be sort of like, okay, every whatever it is, 6 weeks or something. And there's a reason I haven't done it yet, because I don't know exactly what the number is or how to sort this all out. But I think it's important. This is how we treat jobs. Like, I think it's important for people to take time off for their work and all these sorts of things. It's important. And yeah, I don't know how to wrap my head around that just yet. So if you guys have any ideas, then let me know. But that's kind of where my headspace is at. And but at the same time, I'm carried through by so many people who watch this show, who listen, who engage in the Discord. The Discord is popping off, man. Holy crap. Merch is flying out the door, which is very cool. We just celebrated an incredible 4,000 watch hours at youtube.com/Carpool Gaming, which unlocks a whole slew of features. It's something that we've been striving towards ever since we kind of got a glimpse of maybe this is possible. So we made a bit of a push for that. And we celebrated a pretty big deal there. So watch YouTube, some cool stuff happening over there over the next little bit. And that's definitely been uplifting. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and obviously just the amount of hours that go into creating the content on itself. And to have it rewarded in that way for as meaningless as YouTube metrics really are, it does feel good every once in a while. And I'm hopeful that I don't have to look at numbers like that much more now that we've crossed the threshold, but excited to see where we go from there. And I also want to, while I'm on the topic, I want to thank everybody who supports us at patreon.com/Carpool Gaming, damn near 90 of you. And there's so much amazing content going on at patreon.com at the $3 tier and up. And maybe as you're listening to this, maybe on Monday. I don't have the audio yet from Mr. Badbit. Not to throw him completely under the bus, but I kind of did by accident. The Console War Room, him and I talk a lot about God of War and all of that stuff. We also talk about content creation in general, like most things. And Ethan and I are going to talk about this. Podcasting is really just an excuse to hang out with your friends in a scheduled manner and meet people from around the world. Is very cool. And so actually the Console War Room this time around sounds kind of a lot like a sweet hang to some extent. So check that out, patreon.com/carpoolgaming. I want to thank everybody who supports us over there, especially our ultimate producers, Tony Baker from Quest for Pixels. You can go to youtube.com/Quest for Pixels today. Dallas Ford, the co-host at The Blame Game. You can support Dallas on YouTube to get those guys over 100 subs. The link is in the show notes. Emily O'Kelly, Trucker Sloth, Johnathan Brown with his album In My Element on Spotify and Apple Music. Lee Navarro, the fearless leader of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team. We get a little Extra Life plug later on in the conversation, my friend. Skinny Matt hosting Carpool Gaming Community Game Nights. I played with him at twitch.tv/SkinnyMattK. We played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think Fall Guys are coming up. Very cool. And my good friend Bobby Miller, twitch.tv/Bobby Miller. All the links are in the show notes. Please support these ultimate producers. Our platinum producers, Brendan Myers, Marcus McCracken, Becky Rubin Navarro, and RJ Kern. And our gold members, Anna, Argo, Cecily Carrozza, Dallas Robbins, Dano, Foolish Fuji, Jose Jimenez, Marcus O'Neill, Mostly Martinez, Nagachaka, The Snack Network, and Mr. and Mrs. Nasty Boots. And welcome on in, Johnathan Z. I think. It depends on where you're from. I don't know where you're from, Jonathan. Is it Jonathan Z, Jonathan Z? I've had a realization about the letter Z. As a Canadian, we say Z, and my friends in the UK and in many parts of the world, they say Z. I think Australia probably says Z as well. But I think that it probably should be Z. I think I might be coming around to this. I hold steady on certain Canadian traditions and weird things that we do. I think Z might be the right way to say it. It's the way that the alphabet should end. You know, everything from A to Z. Like when we say, like when the Amazon, this is where I think it came up to me when you look at the Amazon logo and the arrow goes from A to the Z, it's supposed to signify that they sell everything from A to Z. Did you guys know that? Did you hear about this? I think A to Z I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments below. That might be the hottest take that you guys hear on today. I'm excited you're here. I'm getting through some of that mental stuff. I've got to recharge. I had a great week, by the way, at the gym. I realized earlier today that I ended up doing kind of like I did a week-long triathlon. I ran a couple times. I did 10K earlier in the week. I did 5 earlier today, which was great. Feeling good running. Got on the bike for a little while. And for the very first time, I did a swim. I bought goggles. Look at this. I put goggles on my face so that the water doesn't get into my eyeballs and I can see where I'm swimming. It's magical technology. Very cool. I haven't had goggles I haven't gone swimming really in a real way, like lanes. I haven't done that since I was a kid, man. So, pretty embarrassing. You got to get my breathing under control. It's a whole other skill. I've got that all done for my, for biking and for running. That's been pretty good. But I drank a lot of the pool. We'll say that. So very humbling experience, especially with all the other senior citizens who are there early in the morning doing their swim. And they know what they're doing. I have no idea what I'm doing. But I'm trying something new. It's very cool. And actually, speaking of that, we're going to get into that kind of conversation with my new friend, Ethan Buckman. He's a co-host at Project X Talk, now on Frame by Frame and I Hate My Friends. He's part of the Save the Game Media outlet. You can go to youtube.com/Save the Game Media for all the stuff. I'm so proud of these guys. They just completely exploded with a rebrand, an explosion of new content, new podcasts. It's very cool. And a good portion of our conversation today is about finding your own potential, pushing yourself, discovering discipline, all that stuff. You can follow him on Twitter at WhiteCeedier1. At the very end, you're going to know why he calls himself that. Very cool. Here he is, my good friend, your new friend, Ethan Buckman. my friend Donnie Reese from PSVG, he had probably one of the best ideas that I've copied on this computer. It's on my laptop, although I don't really podcast from my laptop too much anymore. But he just removed all possible mics, like webcams and whatever else, like at the driver level. He just removed them altogether. So
that's a good idea, because when I open up my files, I have probably 30 different things because I've gone through different mics and all this stuff. It's crazy.
Totally. Yeah, like and if it just like, especially if you have a webcam, like the fact that the webcam has a microphone built in is like, it's not really for us.
I don't need that.
Yeah, there should be like a podcaster, content creator version of a webcam that just has zero microphone. I don't know if that's what Elgato has.
Yeah, that's what was selected before I joined in. I'm like, uh-oh.
It happens all the time. And people, and that's the thing, like when you're in a room, this is, sometimes do you ever get like hyper aware of the fact that you're just like in a room by yourself talking at a screen? Like now that I'm calling it out.
You know, I've gotten used to it over time, but when I first started, I just had this anxiety because, like, I had my wife in here. Yeah, I have my wife in here, and I always would have her go to the other room because I was like, I look like an absolute loser right now, talking to the computer, having a conversation. She can't hear the other side, and I would say something crazy, and she would like look at me like, "What are you guys talking about?"
I'll
be like, I'll tell you later.
Man, I have I don't know what you would call it, but I don't like being on the phone around people, especially.
Yes,
right? Like I
have to walk out of the room to take a call or something like that.
Totally. And it's for that very reason. I don't like the thought of somebody else hearing only one side of the conversation and how awkward that must be for that person. And what
like,
they would think
everyone's being courteous and not listening and trying to look like they're not listening. Like, they're listening. Everyone's always listening.
They're listening at the time when you least want them to be overhearing what you're saying.
We can pretend all we want.
I used to have a job where I had my own office. It was nice. I had a door and everything. It was great. So I could close the door and have private conversations. And then it was weird because it was actually when I got a better job that I didn't get an office. I remember they were showing me around because I ended up working inside a hospital, and they're like, well, here's floor space, any office space comes at a premium because the floor space is for beds. They should have, doctors and stuff, not a bunch of idiots like me going around. So my space in the building was like a shared office space. And I went, what have I done? Well, I hate being on the phone in front of people. So we're all talking and chatting either with each other.
Like this with your hand over the receiver.
Seriously. Like, and that never sounds good to the person who matters to the most.
It never sounds
You're just like,
good.
I'm just trying to be kind to everybody around me.
What I always wonder when like people are working in call centers, like how do you do your job?
Oh my God,
all day, like talking to people in this cubicle when there's 100 other people in the same room talking to people. I'd have a meltdown. I wouldn't be able to do it ever.
Have you ever seen like a call center? Like that sounds like, or are you just imagining?
I'm just imagining it.
Yeah.
I mean, there was like one spot when I was in the Navy, there was one spot called personnel when there was like 30 people down there working. They did all the admin stuff, and it was kind of like that, where it was like everyone was on the phone constantly talking to different people about different things, and I'm just like in there like, whoa, I'm just down here to get something signed off. I don't want anything to do with this. No.
No kidding. I mean, it's just it's a different type of person, but I guess that makes us a little bit of a different type of person, that we sit down for an hour plus at a time and just kind of record stuff. It's very I don't typically like to call it out all that much, but for whatever reason, the technical thing kind of brought that out, I guess, at the start here.
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge getting into it, but I've slowly gotten used to it. And
how long has it been?
So I first started doing stuff on YouTube, I want to say midway through 2020, because we're locked up during the pandemic. Like it was in the midst of everything. I had so much time on my hands because my command was like, we're not staying at work for more than half a day because we just don't want exposure. So we're gonna like do skeleton crews and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm freaking. I'm going crazy. I have nothing to do. And so I just bought this Blue Yeti mic off of Amazon. I'm like, I'm going to do Let's Plays because I used to watch Markiplier and Jacksepticeye, all them back in the day. And so I just started playing games, recording it, and talking during it. And then that led me into meeting somebody at my command that also did it. And we got together, did some podcasts, and I fell in love with podcasting. And then I met the group I'm with now, and it's been history ever since. It's been crazy. What kind of
games were you doing at the start with the Let's Plays?
Oh, it was anything really that I could get my hands on. My first Let's Play I did, well, the first two, because I was doing them at the same time, were Little Nightmares 2 and The Medium.
Okay, a little creepy, yeah. Like both of them.
And you know, it's funny because I'm really sensitive to horror, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, what would people find most entertaining? Me screaming like a little girl playing horror games. So I just did it, and it was, my buddies thought it was entertaining. My wife thought it was entertaining. Nobody else was watching me, but it was pretty fun. That is
hilarious. I'm just trying to like reconcile the fact that, and I want to explore this a little bit. The fact that you're in the Navy. So that sounds like, you know, you're facing some stuff, but you're sensitive with horror stuff. So I'm just trying to like reconcile those two things.
I was an electrician. I was nothing special. I try and tell people, like, you know, not everybody is, you know, seeing bad things. I'm a lucky one where, you know, non-combatant, you know, kind of on the ocean. I still did deployments. I was away for a long time, did stuff, but I worked with electronics and I was a nerd, and I loved using multimeters and checking voltages and working on circuit boards and stuff like that. So that's what I did.
Did the Navy put you through school? Is that how that all worked out?
Oh, yeah. You have obviously your 8 weeks basic training or boot camp, which is just general military training. They beat the hell out of you, make you run, get you in shape. Yeah. And then I went through, 9 weeks of advanced technical training, which taught you things like Kirchhoff's law and like anything to do with electronics.
What's that?
Basically.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't remember. Honest to God, it's been so long.
I don't know, Pythagoras theorem, whatever.
Yeah, something like that. It's like asking me algebra questions right now from high school. I couldn't tell you nothing. But basically, they basically make you do a bunch of calculations, learn about voltages, ohmage, all this different stuff that has to do with electronics. And then I went to an A school, they call it, where you actually learn your real job. Like the ATT is just baseline. The A school was the ICA school. That's what I was. I was an ICman. And that's where you learn all your gear, all your equipment, what you're going to do on your ship and stuff like that. And then they're like, here's your orders. You're going to Bremerton, Washington on this aircraft carrier, and you're on a flight the next day. It was kind of crazy.
That is kind of nuts, man. Like you're just like going from school or a classroom, or this was before the pandemic, I'm imagining. Like how long ago did you?
2015. When 2015. I first joined. Yeah.
Okay. Why all that? Why electrician? Why Navy? Like, how did that all happen?
Well, it's kind of crazy. It's almost like, it feels like it fell on my lap because I had surgery in 2014 on my foot, and I gained a ton of weight.
Why did you? There's so much to unpack. Why were you having surgery on your foot?
But it was I had like a fused bone in it or something. They had to separate it. And so I was holed up for like 4 months sitting. I gained a bunch of weight. I was feeling depressed. My grades weren't good. I'm just like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with my life.
Yeah. And, you know, like high school grades? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. High school grades.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So I graduate my senior year. I'm still big. I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. And I just remember my whole family's basically Navy. My dad was in the Navy. Grandfather was in the Army. He was different. He got drafted. Great grandfather was in the Navy. Great great grandfather was in the everyone was in the Navy.
Oh, snap.
Couple uncles. And
this was going to happen no matter what, whether you wanted to or not. That you were just like in the direction.
It was destiny. It was destiny. Yeah. That's what I tell people. But, you know, I was like, screw it. I'll join the Navy. I'll see what I can do. So I started working out, got accepted, went to the recruiter, and they put a bunch of jobs in front of me. And I'm like, I don't know. This one looks cool.
Wow, so really?
I was 18 years old right out of high school. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, man.
What about like the history of the family though? Like, did that dictate at all like where you were thinking you were going to go? Like, did that basically like select the Navy? You could have gone, I guess, Army or anything else.
Well, that's why I chose the Navy, just because of the family. But I avoided being a cook because my dad was a cook.
Okay.
And he told me how horrible it was. It sucks being a cook in the military. So I'm like, I know I don't want to do that. And then one of my uncles was like, you don't want to go in PACT, which is like this weird rate where you don't actually have a job. You just kind of go in and get abused. And I'm just like, no, I'm good on that too. So anything with electronics, people were telling me, my recruiters were telling me, it's what's going to make you the most money when you get out. I'm like, all right, cool.
What was bad about being a cook? What kind of stories your oh, really?
They would get there. My wife was actually a cook in the Navy. My wife Kendall. So
good God. Okay. Yeah. Wow.
So she would get to the ship at 4:30 in the morning to prep for breakfast. Breakfast would open at 6, and she would be there until what's the conversion? Because I'm so used to using military time. 7 p.m. at night.
Okay. Yeah.
To finish out dinner, do the cleaning, and then they would have to get an inspection done to make sure everything was clean. Then they could go home. So usually they weren't home until about 8 p.m.
And then you're back the next day prepping for breakfast at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, you go to sleep right when you get home, and she would go to sleep right when she got home, and she would wake up and go do it the next day. So it was like, well, I'm glad I didn't do that. I'm sorry.
For basically like an entire deployment, or are you doing that on like 3 weeks on, a week off, or something like
7
that?
months
like
straight, every single day.
Come on,
you got to eat. Everyone's got to eat every day, even on the weekends. And you could get lucky and get put on night shift because they only have to do 2 meals. They have to do midnight rations, and then they help with breakfast the next morning. But it's still the same hours.
Yeah. And it's not like you can just have all these people around to switch from one shift to another, like morning, afternoon, night shift kind of thing. You can't
work with people. You're on a roster and you need to be there like on time, or somebody's going to the berthing to wake you up and get you in uniform. So
cooking was not going to be an option for you, but like that just seemed to be like... Is it mainly because you didn't really have anything else that you wanted to do out of high school? So you're like, I guess, what I know is the Navy.
Well, I always wanted to be a police officer growing up. I thought that was the coolest job. I had is it called a great uncle when it's your grandmother's brother? I don't know. One of my uncles was a NYPD officer, and I always thought it was cool seeing his old stuff. So I was like, that'd be cool one day. And so I wanted to join the Navy as an MA, which is their kind of security force.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't, because then I learned what their job actually was, and it was terrible. But so I wanted to do that, but at the time when I chose my jobs, it wasn't available, and I was just like, just give me something that's different, something new. I'm going to reinvent myself. Give me something I have no clue about. So I picked electronics because I didn't know nothing about it, and I learned a new trade.
Dude, that is like the least. The last way I think I would choose like a career path. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like,
it's weird.
Let's find something I know very little about. Egyptian. Man, I'll learn that.
I felt like I don't know what talents I have. I don't know if I have any talents. So just give me something. Like I know they'll train me. That's what my dad always told me, is like, don't worry about what you pick. They will train you. They will make sure you know what you're doing. And I'm like, all right, here we go.
That's a good thing to be walking into, because I think a lot of us can think about jobs that we've taken where like the training is pretty subpar and like learn on the job kind of thing.
Seminar or something like that, and it doesn't really help.
Maybe. No kidding, man. So was there any sort of like, I don't know if it like culture shock is the word, or just job shock, or just like, was there a wake up call that you had? You're like, oh snap, what have I gotten myself into here?
I gotta tell you, it's kind of embarrassing. So I get dropped off at the airport in Portland, Maine. I'm from Vermont, so we had to do like a 5-hour drive up to Portland, Maine to drop me off, and the flight went to Chicago. I turned 18 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in the airport. I'm holding my tickets. I'm looking at my orders to Naval Station Great Lakes, where our boot camp is, and I'm just shaking. I'm like, oh my God, why did I do this? I'm freaking out. But I just toughed it out. I got on the plane. I just went through the motions. I'm like, here we go. We get to what's called P-Days, which is kind of like the indoctrination phase, they call it, which is not a good word, but that's the word they use.
Actually use that word.
The indoctrination phase. It's where they shave your head. They put you in these stupid yellow uniforms. They yell at you. They break you down. They make you feel worthless. And they make you feel part of the group, basically. Like you're just a cog in this giant wheel. And they sit us down for our first meal. And I'm sitting at the table. I have these awful scrambled eggs in front of me, and these awful little, microwave sausages.
Those damn cooks, man, overworked.
And I'm sitting there. And I'm thinking about my mother's home cooking, because she's just a hearty Irish cook. Like she makes beef stew, biscuits, all that stuff. And I'm sitting there looking at the sad plate, and a tear starts rolling out my eyes. I'm like, man, I am terrified right now. I've been up for 48 hours at this point, because they don't let you sleep for the first 3 days. And they basically just mentally break you down. And I'm sitting there like shaking with this horrible food in front of me. And I'm like, this is the worst decision of my life. But it ended up being the best decision of my life. So I think things turned out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with what happened.
Had you done you've got generations of this stuff in your DNA, and even just in your conversations around you, like you must have had some sort of like mental picture of perhaps what this was going to be like, or was it totally just shocking, or was it the overall just experience of you're in it? Like maybe that's just different from anything you can prepare for.
I had sort of an image in my mind of what it was going to be through what my dad said, but the Navy and the military in general has come such a long way since those times. I mean, he was in when women weren't even allowed to serve, period, on ships. Yeah. I mean, that's how far back he served. So the Navy that I went into was completely different. It was same in a lot of ways, but in general terms, it was completely different from what it was. I mean, he used to tell me stories about how in boot camp, the RDCs or the drill instructors, they would sit in what we call the shark tank, which is kind of like this glass box where they look inside the compartment and monitor you. They used to sit there and chain smoke cigarettes and blow the smoke out into the compartment to make everyone jealous and fiend for cigarettes, so they would have mental breakdowns and stuff. Yeah, they don't do that anymore, obviously, but they used to be way more abusive. But yeah, it was completely different. It's a co-culture. It's something completely separated from anything that you would imagine. Like it has its own language, it has its own customs, its own traditions, its own way of doing things. You walk differently, you talk differently. You like I said, the language is completely different. We had this book like about that thick, probably like 600 pages that we had to read throughout boot camp to learn different like words for things. Like a ceiling is an overhead. The floor is a deck. The walls are bulkheads. A door is a hatch. Like all these things. So you had to learn. So which one's starboard? Starboard is right. Port is left. The stern is front. It's the
so that's the kind of stuff that you had to learn. Like, did you know at least some of that stuff?
No, God, no. He didn't.
That is amazing. Like in military, Navy family, just like still learning all the words and the codes and everything.
My dad just wanted to tell me stories of the times he went out drinking in Europe and got arrested. He didn't tell me like the inner workings and stuff. But it was definitely a new experience and one I don't regret.
Did you have like any sort of like aspirations for yourself as far as like, it seems like kind of a path that few take, or relatively, like this is not what everybody does. Like, were you trying to prove something to yourself, or like what got you through, man?
You know, that's probably a good way of putting it. Cause you know, when I was growing up, I didn't excel in hardly anything. Yeah. I wasn't that athletic. I played sports, but I wasn't athletic. My grades weren't good. I didn't have many friends. I was, you know, people, I don't want to say bullied. That's kind of a strong term. Like, you know, just not, I don't know. I don't know how to say it any other way than bullied, but, and, you know, even people that I knew said, you're never going to do anything like that. Cause I told people I wanted to join the Navy and like, everyone was like, no, you're not, you know, you're not going to, you're 260 pounds. You're not that smart. You're not going to do it. And so I was like, fuck you. Yeah. I'm going to do it. And so I did it.
So that's kind of that's got to be a pretty good driving force when you're just sitting there going, what have I done? But wait a second.
Yeah, you're just kind of sitting, because I'm a single child, so I don't have anyone to talk to at home. I'm just kind of sitting on my couch at home like, what am I going to do? I just need to shape up. Willpower. I need to get this.
Yeah, man.
That's all I did.
Where do you think that's the kind of what I'm getting after here is like, where does that come from? Because I feel, and this is something that's been on my mind for a very long time, as especially over the last 2 years have been so challenging. And for me personally, like with the family now and all these, like, life is hard and it's different for everybody, and it's more challenging than I think anybody could have prepared us for. But like somewhere, somehow, like many of us are able to like dig deep and do something about it. Like we got to go, like we got to carry on. We got to do something. And so I'm curious, like what that is for you.
Dude, I still am chasing that kind of feeling, I guess you could say. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you get there. Cause like I got there when I was preparing for the Navy. I was out running 3 miles a day, doing hundreds of push-ups a day. Like I was locked in. Like there was nothing on my mind except this thing. Like I am going to join the Navy. There is nothing that will stop me. I don't know how to get to that. Like,
but you've done it now. Like that's the kind of thing that I get really excited about whenever new challenges are up. You're like, if you look back to a hard time in your life, you're like, man, I really did that. And maybe it's just a matter of youthful energy and stubbornness and arrogance and unfound confidence, things like this.
You know, like, I'm 18. I don't know the world. I grew up in I like to tell people I grew up in a Hallmark card. I grew up in Vermont, of all places. It's one of the safest places in the world to live. I mean, I didn't know what the real world was like. Right. So like all I knew was, you know, this little sliver of humanity, and so I could focus on things other than, you know, struggles that I might have dealt with otherwise if I lived somewhere else.
Good for you, man. I like I said, it's not something that everybody does. So for you to have that experience behind you, like now, like, do you feel like you can do, like, have you found a new, like, ability and confidence in new things even? You just seem to have a proclivity for, I don't know how to do this, so let's give it a try. Let's play like that guy knows how to do it, so let's do this. Let's get on a boat.
I think trying new things is definitely something I've gotten better at, because, like, I remember growing up, I didn't want to try new things at all. Like, even just, like, I was a picky eater, you know, any new experiences scared the hell out of me. I didn't want to deal with it. I wanted to be comfortable in my own home. But, you know, since then, I'm still kind of a homebody, but still since then, I've been able to dive headfirst into stuff before. Like, I moved to Texas after I got out of the Navy. No job, no idea, no attachment to this place except my wife was from here. And I was like, we'll see what happens. You know, I don't have a job. I'm getting 2 more weeks of pay from the Navy, so hopefully that'll keep us afloat until then. And just came here with no backup plan. Just let's dive head first into it.
Okay, so I think the last that we left off in your journey was tears rolling down your face as you're eating terrible scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
What happens next, man? Like, how do you pick yourself up after that? Is it a moment where you go, like, I'm going to shake this off and get back into it, or is it more of a gradual kind of like, let's just take this one day at a time?
That was almost the moment where you kind of tell yourself, it really can't get worse than this.
Okay.
Like, I'm already here. I just need to do it. Like, you just need to turn into an absolute robot, and you just need to go through the motions. If you go through the motions, it'll be done eventually. Yeah. Right. Like, don't care about the pain. Don't care about emotions. Don't care about, I mean, that's what they do to you in boot camp. They strip you of your identity, basically. Yeah. And they build you back up in their image and what they want in a sailor. Or in a soldier for any other boot camp, you know. But
that doesn't sound motivating. Like, that doesn't sound very aspirational. But what you just said before, that is very aspirational. Like, you find something deep down. Like, nobody's telling you got to dig deep and find something. Like, it doesn't sound like they're saying that to you, but you're finding that.
I did things in boot camp that I never imagined I'd be able to do. I was able to do more workouts. I was able to learn things. Because, you know, when you're in boot camp, you're blocked out from the rest of the world. All you have is your senses. Like, you're alone in this bubble, and you're completely restricted from the rest of the world. So, you know, all you can do is what they tell you. Yeah. And so you all of a sudden, like, halfway through boot camp, I started to realize in myself, I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing things that I never thought were capable of doing. I'm doing 70 push-ups in a row. How? I don't know how I'm doing this. I'm just still going. This is ridiculous. And, you know, your brain almost just shuts off, and you turn into this primal thing that can just do anything that it wants to do. And it's very interesting. It was an experience that I don't want to repeat, but it was, the results are pretty good. The results were good at the end. I had lost a lot of weight. I was in the best shape of my life, but, like, and I learned a lot, and I had a lot of discipline. But, like, oh my God, thinking back to that, it's almost like a blur. Like, it's almost like it didn't happen. It's crazy. Man, like, this is something I'm really thinking about a lot. I think mainly it's just a matter of the people I'm listening to on whatever, YouTube and everything else. And this notion of, like, discovering your own potential is, like, kind of, it seems like the next 10, 15 years of my life, I imagine. Like, this is, like, going to be the thing that drives me. And I want for, like, everybody, like, this is a seed I want, like, planted in, like, everybody's, like, what if you could discover your true potential? Like, holy crap, if we lived our lives like that, oh my gosh, man, get out of our way. It's insane what you can do. If you really focus on something. It's absolutely incredible how far you can push yourself. And now, obviously, there's a limit, and you need to know yourself, and, you know, take mental health breaks, take physical breaks, stuff like that. For sure. But I mean, when you're in the outside world and you're not in that environment, you know, it can be so difficult because you have so many stimuli around you, so many other things to do. You're multitasking, you know. But, I mean, to people out there listening, I mean, God, you are capable of a whole lot more than you think you are. That's awesome. And man. I mean, I'm telling you, in 8 weeks, I had learned so much about myself, and how literally it nothing bothers me anymore. I could do whatever I want right now. It's kind of crazy. I love it, man. That's awesome. Holy crap. That's great. I mean, I could, but I don't always meet the goals.
Sure.
Now I have that outside stimuli and I'm trying to chase that feeling again.
There's definitely, it's the focus of like, it's the benefit of the focus, right? Like I had, it's so funny because you literally went to boot camp and I went to like a fitness boot camp when I was 20 years old or something like that. Speaking of like best shape of my life, I did like like a wall sit. You like kind of like have your back up against the wall and it's like, like you're in a chair. I did one for 15 minutes. Straight. And I'm just like, how is this possible, dude? Best shape of my life. But like, it is that focus. You turn your brain off. Like, I guess I'm just doing this. This sucks. But like, what else am I going to do at this moment? And especially in your case, it seems like you're signed up. There's a term that you're working at. So at least, know, there's a path and maybe a light at the end of the tunnel. So that's got to be helpful. But man.
Yeah. And it's so freeing once you get to that point where you realize, holy crap, I can do a lot of things. Like
that's what I'm talking about.
I grew up a fat kid. I'm still a fat kid. I'm a big guy now. Like I regained so much weight since I left the Navy, but I've always been a fat kid at heart, even when I was in shape. And just to see myself be able to do these things, I was running the PT test. I was doing running laps. Wow. We had to do 1.5 miles and stuff like that. And I'm like running along and I'm looking at everyone else and I'm keeping up with these guys that are, I look at them as way more in shape than me, but I'm like, oh my God, I'm with them. I'm doing this. This is nuts. And I almost had this high, halfway through the PT test that kept me going. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. I can't believe I'm doing this right now.
Did you ever, like as an electrician, non-combat, did you ever feel in danger at all though? Like, were you in dangerous areas? Were you serving people who were in danger? Like, how did that work out?
There was only,
I don't know if you can talk about it really even.
I can talk about it. There was one instance that I felt a little nervous, but I knew nothing was going to come of it because, they couldn't do anything to us. We were going through the Straits of Hormuz, which the Straits of Hormuz are that little channel that leads you into the Gulf. It's basically Saudi Arabia's on one side and Oman, and on the other side is Iran.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Like, you have to go through this little.
You said the Gulf. I'm thinking like the Gulf of Mexico, dude. You'd mentioned Texas earlier. I'm like, okay, we're on the other side of the world. Okay, got it.
Yeah, the Gulf of Arabia, and so we're going in there to do flight operations over Afghanistan and Syria. This was during the tail end of the fight against ISIS. Mm-hmm. So we're going over there to do flight ops, and we have to go through these straits, and it's always a hell of a time when an American ship goes through the straits because the Iranians just harass you. They do not want us there. They do not like us. They want to put fear in us. And so we had to go into general quarters, which that's battle stations, basically it was like a modified battle stations for 10 hours while we were going through these straits because we had Iranian gunboats, probably 300 yards off of our starboard side, pointing their guns right at us the whole time. Just
in an aircraft carrier, that's where you're in?
At an aircraft carrier, yeah. Which was hilarious to see these tiny little gunboats thinking they were going to take us on, and we have 50 cal mounts all along the side just pointing at them, and it's like this tense situation where we're all just like sitting there like, is it about to pop off? Like everyone's in the shop, like, because we're not doing any work that day. Yeah. Like everyone's just standing by. And so we're chilling in the shop, just like, I'm just waiting to hear some gunshots. I'm waiting to hear something pop off because we're ready for people were getting excited for it.
Yeah.
Which I personally was like, I would rather not, but if it happens, it happens.
After you go ahead. You grab your gun. I'm good. Would you be called upon for anything like that? Like, is there like an emergency kind of all hands on deck kind of deal?
So it would have been interesting because, battle stations, everybody on the ship has their battle station. You're either on a gun mount or you're in a switchboard room, or everybody has their own thing, right?
Okay.
Mine was called Bridge Eye Seaman. So I would go up to the bridge. That's where the captain and the admiral would be. That's where all the orders are being happened. That's where they steer the ship. They change the speed of the ship. And I would have been responsible for everything on that bridge related to my job. For that gear, and it's actually
a big deal, man.
It was kind of scary, like because I was kidding. Like, I really hope this doesn't actually happen because I'm so used to just training scenarios where we just go up there and don't really do anything. We just kind of stand there. But I'm like, my God, if we actually take a hit and I gotta like fix something on the fly while taking fire, like I don't know what I'm gonna do. I would have done it because I had to. There's no option for me. But like,
that was going to be what I was going to ask you about, is the training for it actually. So you would have been like on the actual bridge in training scenarios, as well as maybe like outside or more classroom type of training, or like how did that all work?
classroom training was kind of limited to general military training, like CPR or like sexual assault response or stuff like that, detecting signs of suicidal ideations, stuff like that. That was kind of what classroom training was for. Everything that had to do with our job or like battle stations or something like that, that was live training. Like that was like, we had to go into general quarters. We had to get to our stations. We had to do simulations of what would happen, what we would do during a scenario and stuff like that, which sometimes was really fun because we got to do some pretty unique stuff. Sometimes it was really boring because you would stand there in the same spot for 3 hours staring off into the ocean and nothing would happen. So.
Sure. That is unreal, man. Like, cause not everybody, how many people would be on the bridge? Like a couple dozen, maybe?
There would be probably 20. We had the quartermasters up there charting courses. We would have the bosun mates steering the ship. We would have the conning officer, which orders which way the ship is going and how fast it's going. Then you would have the captain and the executive officer and the admiral up there, all sitting in their chairs, looking stoically out at the ocean, talking to people. So it was a lot of big dogs up there too, like really high up officers. So you had to really like shape up. You couldn't put your hands in your pockets. You had to stand like still, at attention, because like you had all these big dogs up there and you were like, you don't want to draw the ire of any of them.
That's what kind of caught my attention almost immediately, was like, who is up there? Like, you have a crew of probably a few hundred people on the entire ship, but like 20 people in this very important space.
5,500.
That's
5,500
unreal.
Personnel on the ship, and there's 20 of us on the bridge. Yeah.
Oh snap!
With air wing complement. So we had, before we went on deployments, we would board the air wing, which they brought all the jets, the helicopters, all that stuff. That would come with like 2,000, 2,500 maybe personnel.
Wow.
And so like it was nice when the air wing wasn't on board because the ship was kind of quiet. We had the lines for chow weren't as long, stuff like that. But once air wing got on board, it was hell. Like going through the
double the people.
There's so many people around you. There's so much going. We call it controlled chaos.
Yeah.
Like it just seems, if you were looking at it without any knowledge of it, you would think, oh my God, we're doomed.
That's cool.
I don't know what to do, but everybody knows what they're doing on that ship and they have a purpose for where they're going. And so it's wild seeing it work. It's a beautiful thing, really.
What about the aircraft carrier just as an aircraft? About the plane? Talk to me about the planes, man. Are they going off all the time? Do you see the stuff like what's that? Because I think jets are amazing.
All the time. I mean, you get used to it. So my shop was on the 03 level, which the 03 level is the level right below the flight deck. So I would hear jet engines all day long, and you just get used to it. And I have pretty bad tinnitus now from my time in because I got used to it, and I have some hearing damage, but it was worth it. It was cool. And then when you're on the bridge, you actually get to see them launch.
It was worth it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're
hearing loss, it's fine.
Dude, it's crazy. I would walk around the hangar bay and like I would be ducking under F-18 wings, like they were just, God, these things are annoying. Like they're
and there's just so many of them.
Every once in a while, I would like appreciate it, and I'd be like, I'm just in a room full of F-18s. That's kind of cool. And I would go smoke or something. But you'd see them, especially at night, dude. They were so cool. They'd turn on those white afterburners and launch off the deck, and it would go away in an instant. Like, phew, it would be off into the night. It was like, this is cool.
So funny because like the only way I'm even able to imagine somewhat what that must be like is because I've been on a cruise ship. Like I haven't been anywhere near like an actual, I've been in a stationed aircraft carrier, like shows and things like that. And in New York City, I think they had one or two sitting around there as well, small ones. But like if you're out at sea in the middle of the night, like it's a weird thing, man. Like,
it's cool.
You see whatever is illuminated in front of you, like the floor and the railings, and then it's just like nothing, like but just reaching over that blackness.
Cool is when we're underway, especially when we're in waters that are semi-dangerous, or we have Russians or Chinese ships that are kind of dogging us, which happens a lot. We go, what did they call it? Wow, I already forgot what they called it. Darkened ship at night. So once the sun sets, they shut off all the lights that can be seen outside into the water. And they turn on like these red lights into some areas, or these yellow lights that that light doesn't travel as far. So like if you were out on a catwalk at night, it was pitch black. You would just hear the waves, and you'd be feeling the railings and stuff like that. make sure you don't fall or nothing like that, and you'd just be stepping around stuff because there's always stuff on the ground, that people left, and you just being careful. But it's the darkest dark I've ever experienced. It's kind of creepy, but it's cool once you look up and you see the galaxy. That's probably the best part of it.
That is cool, man. Yeah, it's something that few people, unless you're like maybe camping, is maybe the closest thing that other people would kind of discover.
We're living in a really, really rural place where you can actually see all that.
Yeah, light pollution is wild, man. Like just like what it does to even like our own rhythms and stuff like that. Like, or even wildlife around cities and stuff. It's kind of interesting.
I live in San Antonio right now, and I can't see nothing in the sky. You just look up and you're like, there's nothing there. It's just black. And it's kind of sad knowing what's actually up there. Like I can't see that right now.
Do you have like an affinity for space? Like you said, you kind of like when you talk about looking up, like, right?
I watch Neil deGrasse Tyson for fun.
My man.
Like I absolutely adore anything space. I love reading about it. My favorite video games are based off of space stuff.
That is what I'm talking about, dude. That's exactly me too.
Anything space, especially with video games, anything space, I'm here for it. Starfield, so ready for it. I'm gonna drop off the face of the planet when that comes out.
My gosh. And it's funny because I've been making fun of the what was I think unfounded hype for at least a few years about Starfield, because like we got a name of a game and like who's making
logo,
it. And that's kind of it. And it's like, what are people excited about? And then I found myself joining that party a little bit because I'm like, freaking space, man. I just want to go to space. Like this. I was
on board the second I saw it. I said, Todd Howard, space, cool. I'm here. Let's do it. Bethesda is so special to me, just to see them make a space game. God, yeah. Bethesda, that they were there for me when I was in the Navy, because like you don't have video games really. So that's what I was going to ask you about. All I had loaded was Skyrim and Fallout 4.
On a laptop.
On a laptop. And
what kind of laptop did you have?
It was a Lenovo Y50. It was an old Lenovo that I bought back in like 2013, but it could run Skyrim and Fallout 4. So that's, nice. I mean, I think my Steam numbers on Skyrim are like right now 300 something, but it should be like 1,000 because when you're not attached to the internet, it doesn't record your hours. But
I didn't know that.
Yep. Once you're completely separated from internet, which that's a whole nother thing when you come back from 7 months with no internet and you got to update everything and check your email.
They're like, Windows 11, what?
It's a hell of a thing not to have internet for 7 months and see what happens.
That's funny because
your electronics.
So I'm trying to figure out like the timeline. This would have been well after the whole like Xbox One launch, because that was in 2013, I think. 2013. Yeah, 2013.
Yeah, 2013, 2014 was when that started. Yeah.
And I bring that up because they were doing the whole like always online. You must have an internet connection, and I remember thinking like I have like what's everybody's problem? And a vocal part of the community was bringing up military like as being on the other side of the world and not having internet. And I'm like, I didn't even realize that was like a large portion of concern here.
Yeah. I always laugh when I hear those arguments, or like I see the people say like, it's always got to be online. And because like inside I want to say, no, there's people out there that really can't get internet for a long period of time. But at the same time, I reel myself back in because I'm like, it's not a lot of us. Like, I don't want to seem like that veteran that's just like, there's guys out there fighting, blah, like, I don't want to sound like that. So I'm like,
it's always the people who are in it. It's the people who are actually in it who have that attitude that you just say. And it's the people who are loudest who are like, they're not impacted at all. Like it's
and most people, when you're you're not thinking about video games. Trust me. Like it's
sucks.
Like you have to work so much, and you have to deal with qualifications and keeping things up to date for yourself. And like you have to work out a lot because you have your PT test every 6 months. Like you just, you don't have a lot of time. So most people really aren't thinking about it.
What was your PT test like? Like what were they, did you have some sort of like, you had to run a mile in however many minutes or something like that?
Mile and a half, push-ups, sit-ups. Those were the 3 tests. And it was based on your age, how much you had to do. So when I think it was like 18 to 22, I had one standard, and once I turned 22, I got to do a little less push-ups, and I could skip a few workouts here and there. Yeah. So once you get older, the less you have cutoff.
Yeah, it's just an interesting like point to do a cutoff, like from 18 to 21. It's like 3 years, and you think I don't know, maybe 30 or something. I can't
remember what the standards were. I want to say it was a mile and a half in 12:30 for me at 18 to 22, and then it was like 64 push-ups in God, I don't remember if it was like 2 or 3 minutes, something like that.
That doesn't seem to make any sense to me. I'm not going to lie to you. The time for the run seems like easy enough, but or not, I don't know. Like compare. Well, the push-ups, dude. I couldn't do that many push-ups in an hour. I don't think that'd be pretty tricky. I think my wrist would give out.
No, once you have nothing to do but work out, it gets pretty easy. Especially when you're under that pressure too, because the consequences of failing a PT test are shameful, like embarrassing. They make you go to this like class in front of everybody where you have to work it. They call it fat camp in the military, basically. And it's really embarrassing. So once you're in that PT room and maybe you're a little out of shape or something and you didn't prepare well enough, you dig down deep and you're like, I'm not going to fat camp. I can't do this. So, you know, there's a little bit of cheating maybe here and there. Some of our bigger sailors, you know, you because it's your buddy, you're counting your own buddies like push-ups and sit-ups. Yeah. And so your buddy does 40 sit-ups, maybe they're 10 off from the max, and then the guy comes around, you're like, you did 55. You did 55 sit-ups, you know, and then we're good.
Oh man. So talk to me, because I want to get back to video games in a second. Like how, like the end of the deployment, like is there like an agreement or a contract that you would sign that you like, because you got the education, you were going to be on deployment for a number of years? Like what was your off ramp out of the Navy?
So I did a 4-year contract. That's basically straight up 4 years. And then I got to my first command, the John C. Stennis, and they offered me an extension to what's called a PRD, which is potential rotation date. So that's how long your billet is at that ship. So a lot of people actually leave before their billet is up. And then that becomes what's called an open billet. It's basically a person that's not there, and like it's a lost body in a way. So they're like, we want to extend you so that we don't have this open billet. And so I was like, screw it. I don't have anything better to do in my life. I'll sign the extension real quick. So I did like 5 years and 7 months. It was a weird like amount of time, but that was basically it. And then once you're done with your contract, you go into personnel. They sign off on some paperwork. They say, here you go. Get off base. Give me your ID. Get off base. Have a good life. And you drive off base, take off your uniform. You never come back.
So weird. It's a thing that I like often try to wrap my head around, because it like when you talk about it in like a block of years, it sounds like doing time. Like, did you ever think about like where you were going to be in life at the end of the contract? Like, talk to me about that.
There are a lot of similarities between prison life and military life.
Yeah, man.
Like when you're on, you trade like ramen for cigarettes. You trade movies for movies on a hard drive, like stuff like that. Like there's a internal politics, there's an internal currency, and stuff like that. And then when you're talking about your time in the military, you're talking as if like I get out in 3 years, or my time is up in 3 years. Like stuff like that. It's kind
good
of weird.
Behavior.
Good behavior. And you get good behavior marks and stuff like that. Like they evaluate your behavior, your bearings, stuff like that, and it has a lot of similarities. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Did you ever think about like when you first started, like, okay, my time is whatever, 4 years, that's going to make me this old when I get out? Like, did you think about like where you were going to be, and how did that compare with where you thought? Because it's rare that people are able to like look at a predetermined set of years into the future for a thing, and then kind of, I don't know, like, when are you ever prompted like that? Like no, very few people look at a 4-year commitment of anything. Like aside from maybe like university or college, like you're in school as a kid, and then after that you're kind of on your own. So curious in your thoughts there.
It's really interesting when you sign. They call it signing your life away for 4 years. That's kind of the jargon of when you sign your contract, or when you re-enlist and somebody signs like a 6-year contract to do 10 years. They're like, you just signed your life away for another 6 years. Like it's kind of weird, because you don't know where you're going to be. You don't even know where you're going. Like where in the world am I going to be? What job am I doing? But, all this stuff. And you just kind of get thrown in, and it's like, whatever happens, happens. Whatever they tell me to do, I got to do. It's really weird. So you don't really do much planning, because things just are constantly changing. You have no idea what's going to go on.
So where did you find yourself when you left? Like where are you in life? How old are you? And then did you say you met your wife in the Navy, and then you guys kind of built your life together at that point?
Yeah, I met her in 2017, and we were, it was 2016, the tail end of 2016. I went and did what's called cranking duty, which you have to go down to the dish pits and wash dishes for 4 months. Every junior sailor has to do it once. Yeah. And she was the cook, and I met her while I was cranking, and we hit it off. went on a bunch of dates, and we did a deployment together, which that's a bonding experience. That's an interesting story that we'll tell our children one day. We did a deployment together. We traveled around the world, went to Thailand, Singapore, France, all these cool places. And when we got to Virginia, which was our new duty station, we were doing around the world from Washington to Virginia. We got married right like the day after we got off that boat. So we got married in 2019. And we just waited out the rest of our contracts because neither of us wanted to stay in longer than our contracts. So we're like, all right, let's just wait it out. And we did.
Yeah. How much of like the real you should like think about like couples traveling together. It's like that's when you really see a person like at their 24 hours. Maybe you're sharing bathrooms maybe for the first time, things like that. Like again on a cruise ship, my wife and I, we were traveling together about 8 months into us dating, and we're like, well, if we can do that, like we can. This is probably the real deal. So I can imagine the intensity, close quarters, everything that comes along with Navy life, like. You guys were probably accelerating in the bonding in the early stages of dating.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because you can't do any public displays of affection on the ship. That's not allowed. So like we would have to talk to each other as if we were coworkers.
Yeah, it's kind of like school.
Yeah, it basically is that, but except you could like lose your rank and lose pay. You get caught doing.
Yeah, pretty significant. Yeah,
it was kind of it's crazy. It's interesting to see your wife in an environment when she's 18 hours into a shift and you say hi to her and she looks at you with cold dead eyes and you're like, oh, I'll leave you.
Yeah, I'll just back up home or back into the bushes a little bit. Yeah. Oh man. Okay, so you guys are coming to the end of your time. You figured, nuts to Vermont. I'm going to Texas. How does that come up?
I don't.
Whose idea was that?
It was kind of both of our ideas. She's from here, and just when I looked at it, there's so much more job opportunities in Texas. It's way cheaper to live here. She doesn't like the cold, and I can tolerate the heat because I had been in for so long and been around the South China Sea and the Middle East so much.
Yeah,
so
man.
I was like, I can deal with it.
You learned a lot about flexibility and adaptability in those couple of years, I'm sure, like from going to be like a homebody, only child, and everything that comes along with being an only child to one of 5,500 people on this boat going around the world. Like, what a transformation, dude.
It's kind of weird when you think. I haven't looked back on it in a while, so this is the first time I'm kind of reminiscing about how different things were for me when I first joined, because I went from Vermont to Chicago. With Chicago, I went in the winter, so it was kind of home for me because it was so cold. And then straight from Chicago, flew out to Seattle, flew from Seattle to Tokyo, and then Tokyo to Singapore to meet my God. Because my ship was halfway through a deployment, and they're like, "Here's your orders. You're going on deployment now." Like,
wow.
Like, all right. And then there I was in the South China Sea off the coast of Taiwan, sweating.
How are you flying, by the way? are you on like commercial flights, or are you on like a? Okay, so you're not
coach.
Like okay.
Yeah.
I'm like thinking about, I don't even know what the big planes are called, the giant like thing, like doors hanging open.
I have done a COD flight though, which is a little ship or a little plane that they can launch off the flight deck. So I've been launched off a flight deck before, which is a horrifying experience.
I
did not
feel
like
everything.
It one bit. Yeah, because you're sitting there and you're gearing up, and the guy's at the front, and he's like, "Stand by, we're about to launch. Hold on," and we all sit back, and then it's just from 0 to who knows how fast,
flying,
boom, and you just get slammed back in your seat. It's like any sports car you've been in, and the driver has floored it. Does not compare. Like it felt like my soul leaving my body. I was terrified. And then all of a sudden, just weightlessness, and you're up in the air, and you bank hard, and it was crazy.
Did you ever want to be a pilot at all? Like, there's a love for space there, like nothing for the pilots. No,
I don't know. I just didn't have any interest in it. And their schooling is so difficult. They got to go through so much. And I'm like, I am not smart enough to learn all those buttons and what they do. I don't think I could do that. No.
Yeah.
They were cool. I love pilots though. They're the coolest people in the Navy. I can tell you. Like,
and they're the ones, guess what? They're the ones who get to test out new space vehicles and everything. And they're the ones who drive the ship, man.
When nuts. I tell you, they don't care about anything once they're on the ground. They are chilling. They're not wearing uniforms. They're walking around with a beard. Like, and everyone's looking at them like, what are you guys doing? Like, you guys even in the military,
Different
they don't
breed,
care.
Man.
They're wearing shades indoors. They don't care. They're playing cards and stuff.
They're playing volleyball with their shirts off.
With their shirts off. That actually happened once. They actually were in the hangar bay when we had no planes on, and there was some on the ship, and they were playing volleyball. It was funny. They were in flight. They weren't shirtless, but it was still funny.
Oh my gosh, man! Where would talk to me about? I want to talk about space for a second, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Where? Like, to me, maybe I'll start here. I'm frustrated by how enormous space is, and that we're like just unable to go. Like, what do you mean? How have we not figured this out yet? How do we not like go to another star system, for God's sakes? You know, it takes too long.
I watch every space launch that happens around the world. I have a space launch tracker, and I watch it all. And everything Elon Musk is doing with SpaceX, I am following. Like, my eyes are glued to it because he wants to get us to Mars, and I am so excited that
let's go to Mars.
This is gonna be our moon landing.
Yes,
you know, for our generation is when we step foot on Mars, and I am just. Even talking about it, I'm getting excited thinking about it.
That's what I'm talking about, man.
I can't wait for that night, sitting watching the TV, watching some astronauts step on Mars. Like,
man.
I'm ready to go. I'm ready to see us colonize. I'm ready to see in my lifetime us go to a different star system. I just want it so bad. It's interesting to see.
I'm the type of person who, like, I get really worked up over, like, we now have like 2 pictures of black holes. Like, how the hell is that possible?
How do you take a picture of that?
You took a picture of the thing that's swallowing light? Like, what the hell does that even mean?
You took a picture of the literal meaning of nothing.
Oh my gosh, dude. Like, I just don't, like, well, how did you even know where it was? Yeah. Like, the navigation through space is wild to me.
These guys can literally calculate gravity with telescope. How do you calculate gravity by looking at something? I don't get that.
I know.
Like, you see this one star off in the distance is warped. We know the distance of that star. We know how it's kind of turned. So I'm like, you guys are too much. Like, it's so
it is too much. It's this notion of, and I'm gonna get the planets mixed up here. I think I don't remember which one it was, but I think it was like Neptune that was discovered because like Uranus was like doing a wobble or something, or maybe it's the other way around. Like they knew one of the planets was there. They'd already discovered it, and they're like, oh, that's moving kind of funny. There's probably another planet around it. Yeah, and then that's how they found, maybe, I think it might have been Pluto, actually.
Yeah, they see this one tiny little detail through their telescope, and they're like, "Oh, that's a." I know it's not that simple, but like, they figure out that it's like a planet, and you're like, "How do you know?"
I know. I am totally fascinated by this stuff, and it's just like even like launching things up into the sky. You wait 9 months, and then it's like on Mars somehow. Like, I don't know how to like get around the city without GPS, dude. Like,
I know
these guys are just like, put it up in the sky, we'll figure it out. I don't know, man. Nuts. How the heck? Yeah.
One of my biggest dreams is to go to the Hayden Planetarium in New York City. That's the Neil deGrasse Tyson spot. And I've seen videos of it when he opened it, and I've seen like, virtual walkthroughs of it and stuff. I'm like, God, I gotta go there.
Oh,
I gotta go
I'm
there
glad
for
you
a
brought that
Yankees
up.
game. And go to the Hayden Planetarium after the Yankees games. It's gonna be.
Do you ever go to New York at all these days? Get back to the East Coast?
Too far away. I've been there twice, but that was when I was still living in Vermont. I went for my 17th birthday to go see a Yankees game, and then my dad took me in 2008 before Yankee Stadium got torn down, the original Yankee Stadium.
So I went to a Yankees and Red Sox actually in the new stadium. Yeah. I've been to New York a bunch of times, and I'm so glad you brought up the Hayden Planetarium. Like, I've been to New York a lot actually, and I don't know why I haven't gone there. Like, what the heck have I been thinking, man? Like, what the heck?
And I was interested in space when I was 17. I know I loved it, and I watched Neil deGrasse Tyson. It just never slipped my mind because all I was thinking of was like the touristy stuff. Oh, I want to go see a statue.
I want to go grab all my space books down here, like all these where I actually have books down. I have toys behind me, but books down there are Death by Black Holes, the first, actually Unstoppable is Bill Nye. Death by Black Holes. Then there's one Chris Hadfield, actually. I don't know if this guy is as known in the U.S., but he's a Canadian astronaut who spent a lot of time on the International Space Station. He's like kind of Canadian royalty. And I got to read this book. I've had this for a long time because he's such an inspirational kind of guy. An astronaut's guide to life is this book. So I'm like, totally into this stuff, dude.
There's a book that Neil deGrasse Tyson, I forget the exact title. It's like Letters to an Astrophysicist or something like that.
Oh yeah, I've got one on my let's see. I've got another one on my Kindle actually. What the heck was that one?
Physics for Those in a Hurry. That's one of his other. It
was something like that one. It wasn't that one, but it was something like I'll grab it in a second here. But I'm like, this is, I don't know, like what else is there, man? Like it's
so
just
much
space.
To discover. There's so much to discover. And then like this semester I took a philosophy class too. So like I've been doing a lot of like thinking about the universe in the last 5 weeks.
Have you really?
Like, yeah, it's been nuts. I've been reading Aristotle. I've been reading, different space books and stuff like that. And I'm just like getting so immersed into it because like it's just unlocked this like interest in my head, learning some of this stuff. I'm like, there's so much out there that we don't know. And I just want to know it, but I'm not going to because nobody knows.
It was the Cosmic Queries book. How could I forget?
Cosmic
It's such
Queries,
a classic part of their podcast that they do.
Yep. But Star Talk. Do you listen to Star Talk too?
Listen to Star Talk all the time, man. Absolutely. This is probably one of my longest running, and it's funny how it even came up for me. And maybe this is about like just how people even discover podcasts in general. Like I don't typically click on every link that goes like, here's the top 5 podcasts you need to be listening to. Like those things show up in our feeds like all the time on Twitter and whatnot. But for whatever reason, I'm like, okay, like what are the top whatever it was? And this is early in, and maybe I was just in the right place, right time. And the number 1 at that time was Star Talk Radio. So like it's there. Yeah. It's been in my feeds like the whole time. I'm a huge fan. I love Neil deGrasse Tyson. I get frustrated a little bit with like the internet hate on Elon because I love SpaceX. I think that is totally fascinating. I just think that he's an interesting dude, but he is a little weird. I'll give people that, but like it's
definitely
just
2 sides to Elon. There's the one side that you're like, I don't need to deal. He's like the business side, like, the politics side. I don't want to listen to that. I want to listen to the SpaceX side, the boring company side. Like,
I want to listen to the guy who just gets shit done. Like that's kind of like where I'm at. Like I kind of, for better or for worse, I kind of ignore all the rest of the noise. Dude's got like 9 kids or something and like all this weird stuff. I'm frustrated on the internet today as he's announcing that he's not buying Twitter anymore. And everybody who was making fun of him for trying to buy Twitter is now making fun of him for not buying Twitter. And it's just like,
it's fun to hate. It's fun to hate the guy at the top because he is the richest man in the world. And I get that, I get people cannot like that, but like this guy is almost single-handedly forcing us into the future with his projects. I mean, he started SpaceX back in 2002 with the vision of one day putting people on Mars, and he has worked for the last 2 decades to make that a reality.
You got to respect the hustle.
NASA wasn't doing this. China's not doing this. India's not doing this. All the European space program, Japan, all these big countries that have space programs, none of them are talking about this.
Yeah,
Elon Musk is talking about it. Like, this is cool. We should respect that and appreciate it. It's awesome.
I get chills when the rockets come back down. They land on a platform in the middle of the
That's ridiculous.
How are you doing that?
That's not even a concept that I thought of outside of fiction. Like, I didn't think that was a possibility.
Most people can't parallel park, dude, let alone land a thing in space, like fly it up into the sky, have it turn around like whoop, and then like just it's incredible. I'm
going back to Earth.
One of my favorite things about those launches and everything is the science itself is really interesting and very cool. The fact that they're able to do that, the human ingenuity, I'm very inspired by. But the people who are so geeking out about it, like live watching it, like as if they're cheering on like a sporting event,
live streams and stuff where they do live reacts to it, like we do video game showcases.
Exactly.
It's so fun.
Like the noise that people make at like SpaceX launches and the landings of these things is so similar to like when Captain America picks up the Thor's hammer. Like it's basically the same excitement. Like, how is this possible? Like that's not supposed to happen.
I remember when they landed the first rocket stage successfully, and I remember hearing that crowd roar, and I was like, I was amped up. I'm like, this is one of the coolest things I just witnessed. History, like it's something
totally
I'll never forget, seeing that rocket come, because they had done so many tests before and it just boom, it flops on the ground, explodes. You're expecting it to explode, like at least I'll get a cool explosion out of this, but no, it just sticks the landing and you're like, oh my god, they did it.
Insane. Man, absolutely insane. Like I think maybe I'm too far over to this side of, maybe I'm not entirely sure, but like I think if somebody has the courage to like have an idea and go for it and like go in a way that most people think that they're insane, like I kind of respect the willingness to go into a little bit of insanity to do the thing, whether like obsessing about it from a workload standpoint or just like defying the odds or whatever it is. I'm like, God, we could use a couple more people like that who are just willing to go into the unknown because we're all so comfortable. And where we end up is just making fun of people who are trying to do something crazy and never done before. I hate that, man.
I remember, I like I said, I watch a lot of Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he makes a lot of points about how like we were so adventurous back in the 20th century. Obviously, we had our issues, right? But like we were doing everything we could to push science forward. And nowadays, it just seems like we're kind of ignoring it. So many people aren't interested in it or don't care about it, and funding's not there for it. And it's really sad. But like then you see these glimmers of hope and people trying to shit on it, but they're like, no, we're just going to keep going. And it's really inspirational to see. And I can't wait for what the future holds for this, frontier that we're going into.
It's kind of like game development in a way, because it does seem like it's limited to only a certain few magicians out there and wizards who can actually know how to, like, how does this work? How do you even do this? I don't understand it, but like, thank goodness. This? Yes, like you're sitting at a computer screen with nothing but maybe an idea and some knowledge about coding and whatnot, and then all of a sudden there's
2018 happens. Exactly. And you're like, how did you do that?
and not only like the skill set, but the pushing through the absolute garbage out there from people. It's like, can you just let them work? The job is hard enough. You know what I mean? Like some of the hardest jobs, there's another layer of difficulty, another like added degree of difficulty just because of other shit that people have to put up with.
I if any developers are listening, just don't go on social media. There's no point. It's just toxic because, at least games journalists and like most podcasters are really supportive of game developers, and we really appreciate what they do. But when you go on there and you see like a delay announcement or something, and just how look at what happened to the God of War team,
dude. The delay of an announcement, not even the delay announcement. Exactly. It's the delay of a just stop, dude. I am it's so really done with toxic. That crap.
And it's like, if I was in that situation, I would just bubble myself off the world and be like, I'm gonna get to work and I'm gonna make this awesome thing, and it's gonna be great, and I'm gonna attach my name to it.
The guy from Curse of Monkey Island, or whatever the new one is called, is basically doing that. And I think more and more people are doing this sort of thing, man. But, oh, dude, I could talk about, like, now I kind of want to do like a space book club kind of thing. I just got to get through this book.
Sick.
I gotta do that, man. I love space.
You do a space podcast.
Were you disappointed? Dude. We're both part of, I guess, kind of growing networks, if that's what you might even call it. Like you guys just did like a pretty good glow up over there. Talk to me about
a thing or two about that.
Well, it's funny because I was talking to Kevin. He guested on the RPG Cave with Ryan earlier this week, and I jumped into the secret Discord voice chat to go. I wanted to say hi. So it was a few days. I had known a couple of things I didn't know the scope of everything that you guys were working on, but I knew a few things were happening. So I was talking to him about it, and it was funny because a lot of the lead up to it sounded very similar to our lead up towards launching Carpool Gaming from Yumi Capri, like the pages of plans and the Discord chats with the groups.
It's just chaos. And you're like, oh my God, we're never going to get this together. This is never going to happen. And all of a sudden it just happens and you're like, oh, cool.
Yeah, man.
How those things come together and how much you rely on other people to do their parts and stuff like that. And we have just such an incredible team over there. We brought on a bunch of new talent, and all of them are master classes, and we just have some really great talent over there, and they took the ball and ran with it, and it was absolutely. I almost have like imposter syndrome because I didn't do any of like the big background work. I just kind of threw out ideas and stuff like that and was part of the meetings and everything, but I wasn't doing like, graphics. I wasn't doing logos. I wasn't making the website. And I'm just kind of sitting there like, oh my God, how are you guys doing this? This is awesome. You guys are
There is something to be said about group projects though, where people like that might not seem like you're doing a lot, but I would say at least you're not getting in the way, or tearing ideas down. Like there's definitely something to be said about the people who just like, well, actually, maybe we should do it this way. It's like, what? Just no.
Just be constructive when you're in a meeting. Be constructive.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Yeah, I think we've all maybe been part of group projects in school and things like that, and they don't always go very well. And
not always chemistry with the team, but I can tell you with our new podcasting network, we all have really good chemistry. I mean, I was worried because I'm like, so many new people, we don't know how we all mesh together, but I mean, we got along like that, like instantaneously. It felt
well, talk to me about that, because that seems to be maybe a bit of the history as well. Like, we're talking about what's new right now, but like, how did you and Kevin come to the mix with Project X Talk, and how has it kind of grown from there?
Well, from what I can gather, it was Amon had the idea to start this, and then he found Kevin, Tom, and Garrett. And then they started the whole Project X Talk thing. And then I came along because Tom was doing like a new job and stuff like that, and he wasn't going to be available all the time. So I was scrolling on the Kind of Funny Reddit of all places, just looking around because I was getting into the Kind of Funny community, and I just saw this post like, "Hey, we're looking for somebody for a podcast." I'm like,
I love it.
I'll throw I at first I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. I had social anxiety. I was like, I don't know if I should do this. I don't know these people. I'm scared. I don't know if I got the chops for it. But like my wife's the one that pushed me to make the post, and she's like, just do it. The worst they can say is no, just freaking do it. And I'm like, okay, fine. You click the button. So she clicked the button for me to send the message.
Did you really?
She did. And so I was like, I put my phone down, like, all right, if they come back to me, they come back to me. And then Kevin messaged me on, I think it was Reddit at first. And then he added me on Discord, and we did an interview, and then I joined. And that's pretty much how we found everyone else that just joined us, is through Reddit posts. And I think Amon knew one of them already, but everyone else, it's just like came out of the woodworks. Like, hey, I'm willing to do a podcast with you guys. And it's been really cool.
Do you know what it means to like put an ad in the classifieds? Like, I'm trying to figure out at what point, at what point does that not mean something to somebody? Because newspapers, like most people have no idea, but that's basically what you guys did. You throw an ad in the classifieds. Like here in Canada, there's a lot of that kind of thing for like looking for a goalie for our hockey team. Like goalies come at a premium, you know what I mean? Because it's like the equipment, like, exactly, so you take whoever you can get at that point. But it's a really kind of charming way for people to come together, that like we're looking for somebody who's interested, and it kind of takes a little bit of courage to like, am I the right fit and all this other stuff. And it's serendipitous, man, that you were in the right place at the right time to find the ad, and then to have this little push, this little nudge, little gravity assist from your wife, which I'm cheering for, because it was a very similar situation to me, and even to this day, even still with my wife now, like, and with all of this stuff, like anytime that I'm in a tough spot, she's always going like, well, you've been here before, like keep going with it. She's the one who pushed me to get into it to begin with. And very, very similar. She didn't necessarily hit buttons for me, but she definitely was like, what could go wrong? Give it a shot. This is what you want to do. And that kind of encouragement, man, it's not like it drained her of energy or anything. It didn't cost her anything, but it helped me so much. So I'm cheering at the notion that your wife did the same thing for you.
It's insane how much that just little nudge does for somebody. Like, she can tell when I'm in a rut, and I'm like, God, like for anything really. And she'll just give me that little nudge or say that little thing, and all of a sudden I'm like, snap back to reality. Yeah. Like, all right, I can take care of it. I can get it done. We'll do this.
Somebody's got to tell me. I'm actually just realizing this right now. So many of our wives and partners are able to help us in such a monstrous and immeasurable way, with such a passing suggestion, like go for it. And it's like, that changes my life. Like, holy crap. I need like a tip out there. Like what, like, how am I supposed to do something like that? Like I gotta pay her back, or pay it forward in some way. I pay it forward to everybody else, but like not back to her. Like I'm not entirely sure about how to tackle that.
I kind of do it with my wife, because she's a perfectionist. Like she thinks everything needs to be exactly perfect. And I always tell her, like, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna get it done. And it's that same thing. Like she's in college too right now, so she's writing papers, doing presentations, and she's like, it's awful. It doesn't look good. And she has like this 5-page history report in front of her. Yeah, and I look through it, and I'm like, you're going to get an A on it. What are you worried about?
Yeah.
She's like, you think? And I'm like, yeah, you're going to get an A. Just submit it. Just click the button. You're good.
Nice.
And then she ends up getting an A, and she's like, okay, you were right.
So would you remember your first podcast experience? Like, had you had done Let's Plays by that point, or I can't remember what started. What were you doing YouTube first?
Mostly Yes Plays, Yes Plays, Let's Plays, It was mostly Let's Plays on YouTube, stuff like that. So and nobody was watching, so it was like not really a lot of interaction. Maybe one or two people here and there every once in a while. But and then my first podcasting experience was actually two people I knew from the Navy. And they were the two people that also did Let's Plays. They kind of had a co-channel where they were like the Game Grumps style type stuff, and they like to do that. And they're like, we should just start a podcast. Let's try it out. And it didn't have a theme. It was just kind of anything nerd culture that we wanted to talk about. It was kind of an excuse to get together on the weekends and drink some whiskey and drink some beers and play video games together and talk about video games and movies and stuff. And that's kind of how it started. And that's kind of how I have kept feeling about podcasting. You know, it's just the time to get together with some people you like to talk to and just shoot the shit and get to know them better and play games with them. Obviously now, you know, it's not in person. We're scattered around the world, at least in my podcasting network and stuff like that. So it's not as personable, but I'm excited for one day to actually get together like at a E3 or a PAX conference and actually get
That's what I'm talking about, man.
And do a in-person podcast one day. So I'm super stoked for that.
Extra Life, Rome, New York, man. I'm telling you, it's a 5-hour train ride up from New York City. That's what I did last year. I've done it before. It's wonderful. If you need, it's early November, first weekend in November. It's like the 4th or 5th or something like that. Oh no,
I'm not going to be back in Vermont until December. December 10th is when I leave Texas. So
special trip. I'm just planting the seed. You don't need to. I'm not looking for a commitment at the moment, but you know, it's a fun time to hang out in New York, and then
because I know Kevin and Taylor. I know Kevin, Taylor, and Tom are all in New York.
I think Kevin's going. I'm pretty sure we've got him locked in, dude.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me because I think he's actually pretty close to Rome. It's just a drive away, a day's drive, not a whole day, but like a day drive. So
it's special, man.
Once I'm in Vermont, I'm going to be traveling all around. We're going to go to Boston for PAX East. We've already been talking about it. You know, Amon wants to get us all out to LA for E3 next year because they just announced that. I'm like, I don't know if I have the money to get a flight out to LA, but we'll see. I definitely want to do it, but we're planning on doing all those cool travels and stuff like that.
Definitely. This is me giving you that little nudge of like, these are experiences that are memorable forever, man. Like you get into podcasting like this and it's cool and it's awesome. It's not something that not everybody gets to do, but like meeting people in person. Oh my gosh. It's the best.
That's the other cool thing about starting with these guys is like, I met them and I've made friends with them, but I'm also meeting like I'm meeting Mr. Badbit and Kyle over on, you know, the trophy room. I'm meeting King David from Iron Lords. I'm meeting all these different people from around the community and getting to know them and talking to them. And, you know, there's a whole nother list of names that I didn't say, but there's too many of them to list off. Yep. I've met so many cool people and it's just been an absolute joy to be able to become a part of it. It's been crazy.
King is such a like larger than life, like obviously like his physical size, but like his personality and everything is amazing. I actually, oddly enough, I met him by accident in 2019 at E3 before I even knew about this. Was a year and a half at least before I knew what the Iron Lords was. But him and we bumped into each other. I was there with Luke Lore, who is now from the Xbox expansion pass. Of course, we were there with the Xbox Drive at the time. And I think we were playing Battletoads. And we bumped into this ginormous, just a beast of a man. Like he's just huge. And, you know, like I said, like that's the obvious part about him. But as we were talking and he's capturing pictures and he's talking about his website and bringing things back and creating content. And I remember being like struck by this work ethic, this ambition about it. And also being struck by how many more of us are there out there in this world. Yeah. You know, because we have our little circles, we have like our people who we talk to on a daily basis, but then you like look just outside of that and go, it's kind of like space in and of itself. Like we know about our solar system, but then there's a whole other like cluster and all these things.
It's wild how many different like podcasting groups and content creators are out there. I feel like I'm discovering new ones every day and they're all relatively big and stuff and have audiences. Like everyone's getting success. It feels like everyone's having a good time with this and it's crazy. And like you were just saying, Luke Lore, I'm really sad because I missed him yesterday because
he was on the show.
He was on X Talk and I missed it because I was in theaters watching Thor. And it's funny because once the tickets became available, I wasn't thinking about anything but buying tickets.
Sure,
I had completely forgotten about the podcast at that point. I just bought tickets for 3:30, and then like it was Wednesday, and like Kevin was like, "Yeah, Luke Lore's coming on tomorrow. You're going to be on?" I'm like, oh my God, I have to go see Thor and I don't get to meet Luke. This sucks. So I have yet to meet him on podcasting, but one day I'll be able to meet him.
Oh man. Yeah, there's lots, and everybody is so like generous with their time and encouraging everything. It always strikes me whenever I was oddly enough, I was in a Best Buy last weekend picking up something for my mother-in-law, and I was kind of like, I haven't been in a Best Buy in forever, dude. I haven't like walked in a store like in forever. So I'm just kind of like, I was just taking a moment. I could just walk up to the front desk and pick up what I'm there to get, but I decided to just like walk through just for old time's sake, because I used to work at it was called Future Shop here before Best Buy completely took over, and you just walk through and kind of just remember old times. And something that wasn't there when I worked at Future Shop was a section for equipment, and it was called content creators. Like it was,
really?
you go to the Wi-Fi section, you go to like keyboards, and then there's content creation, and it was microphones, and it was
cool.
like webcams and lighting and soundproofing and stuff. And I'm like, that is so bizarre that
I've never seen that.
Well, and like none of us go to stores anymore, so like why would we really see it? But
makes
like
you want to go to a Best Buy and check.
but we see it on like the stores the digital spaces that we buy from now. Anyways, like we're all talking from a Elgato microphone now. Like the fact that there's a product like this kind of tells us that there's millions of us out there. You know, like that they don't make products for
entire businesses
a couple hundred people
run selling microphones to people that just want to post content on the internet. It's
totally
kind of nuts. I mean, could you think even like 15 years ago, like people would have like studio quality microphone. I'm not saying this is a studio quality microphone.
I think it's pretty close, dude. It sounds
really
great.
Good. Yeah, this is out of the box. Probably one of the best
is
mics you can get for your money for
dollar for dollar. Yeah.
But like, there's people with studio quality soundboards now in their bedrooms with stuff. You're like, this is crazy how things are going. Everybody has a platform. It's actually really fun to see people grow and like do different stuff.
So good, man. Well, before we close things out, I'm stoked about what you guys are doing over there. You now you do more than one show now, though. Like are you on the I Hate My Friends podcast as well?
I wasn't on the first one, but I will be on this next one.
Can you tell me about the show? The name of this podcast is top 5 best names for a podcast.
So we were thinking about different shows, and we had already come up with No Limits, our PlayStation one, and Frame by Frame, the film and TV one. And we're like, why don't we just have like a general podcast where we just shoot the shit and talk to people? Kind of like one of the things I said is like we should have the first few shows talk about the hosts, and like we grill them and ask them questions. And that was kind of inspired by this show, We the GamerCast, because I'm like, this is something that's really entertaining to me. I think it would be fun to do that with our crew, just
that's
for the
cool,
first few shows and stuff like that. So we're going to do that for the first few things, and then we're just going to go off into who knows what. I mean, it's going to be anything and everything, whatever we feel like talking about. And it's funny, when we were thinking of the name, we're like, what would be a good name for this? And we couldn't figure it out, and we're like, well, I mean, we always bicker like old couples on Discord all the time. And like, let's just do I Hate My Friends.
It's so good.
I forget who came up with it. I can't remember who came up with the idea. I feel bad for not remembering. I got to go back into Discord, but whoever made that name, genius. Absolutely
just
genius.
busting balls, man. That's what I'm going to start a podcast called Busting Balls. I think that is hilarious.
That's a good one too. That's a good one too. I like that.
I love the artwork, man. Especially, I mean, the one that I like. Everything is new. Is everything new? Project X Talk is the only thing that carried over from before.
Well, yeah. Project X Talks, the show is the same, but like the logo is different.
The logo,
that's all Amon, and that's all Tom for the graphics and stuff like that. They absolutely went above and beyond, honestly. And then we actually did. I forget. I don't know. We didn't. I guess it's not hire somebody. It's kind of the gig thing. We paid somebody to make our intros, make some original intros and stuff like that. I forget their name. I feel bad again, but but yeah, Tom and Amon went crazy on making logos and intros and stuff like that. They're really talented on that.
It's so good. It's especially on the Xbox side, obviously the one that like kind of got a bit of a glow up. Like it just it looks like an Xbox show now. Like before it would, like it had X Talk obviously, and like it was definitely serviceable. It never looked like something that most people cobble together for their very first logo. But this screams like I look at that logo, I'm like, that's going to be in the top 10 Spotify podcast for Xbox. Like I don't know, it just pops out to me. So I'm stoked to see where you guys are going. I'm really proud to see everything that you guys are just exploding out into, and that you're just going for it, man. That is what it's about. You're Like let's just see what happens. There's something that changes after a year or so of podcasting, and you adopt this sort of like, who cares? Like, let's just see what happens. It seems much more, to your point, adventurous versus you've never done a podcast and you go like, who cares? Let's just see what happens. Usually that kind of ends up kind of like, who cares? But for some reason, after a certain point, and you just go, we've done a certain set of things. Let's just see what else can happen. There's magic in that space. And I'm not sure what the exact line is that differentiates the, like, who cares? Just a bunch of us going to record something and it comes out and the quality isn't really there, to, I don't know, maybe it's the group that you guys have. Maybe there's something there that everybody's just wanting it to be good, and you'll discover what happens out of it.
I feel like we have a pretty good chemistry between us, and like, I will say Kevin is a great host. He's been a great host for Project X Talk. I mean, he keeps the show tight. He keeps it going on the right track and stuff like that. And now we have Amon and Taylor who are stepping up to host shows. I mean, they've been doing an absolute killer job too. So it's just a whole group effort. All of us are just, really working hard for this because it's just fun to us. This is just fun to us. So we're just getting together, shooting the shit, and people seem to like it. So we're like, why not we do more? Why don't we just do more?
I love it. Before we close out, man, I want everybody to make sure that they check out all that stuff, and I'll give you a chance to plug exactly where to go at the end. And obviously links are, and I always put the links in the show notes for this kind of thing. But I wanted to ask, I don't get to ask this. I got to start asking this question more on the show. I was going to start with it, but we kind of got launched right out into international waters. What are you playing? What are you playing right now, man? Like, what do you...
Game Pass just dropped 3 new Yakuzas. Not new, but like new to me. Yakuzas. So I actually was never into Yakuza until Lost Judgment came out. And I picked that and I was like, this game is so cool. So I went and I played Yakuza Like a Dragon on Game Pass. And now Yakuza 0 is out on Game Pass, and I heard that's one of the best ones. So I'm going to play that. I'm playing through Kiwami right now.
Nice.
It's been a Yakuza week for me. Just enjoying that.
Look at this. It's so funny because I was just slamming this month's drop of Game Pass games on the Xbox Drive earlier this week. I'm just like, who cares? And then 3 days later here, I'm talking to you like, all right, well, glad it's there for somebody.
Yeah, when they dropped Far Cry 5, I had nothing to play. I was like, I don't know what to play. I just played through Dragon Age 2, and I'm like, I don't know what to play right now. I don't want to play another Wolfenstein.
We just became best friends. Dragon Age 2 gets some love on the show out of nowhere.
Dragon Age 2 is sick. All right, it was so fun, and I actually liked it better than Origins. I don't know why people. I did, and I don't know why. Don't ask me. It felt better. I love BioWare. I'm a BioWare super fan. I think they're the best developer ever. So, anything they could put out dog shit, and I'd probably play.
Did you play Mass Effect Andromeda? I never got past the first few hours of that game.
I played probably 75% of it.
Did you? Yeah.
But then another game, I forget what other game came along, but I dropped it and I just haven't picked it up again. But
I think I know the answer given what you just said, but am I missing something by completely ignoring it? Should I have pushed through the first few awkward hours? Yeah.
I mean, it's in its own right. It's fun. I mean, it's a space adventure and you're running around shooting stuff, and there's a cool story, and it still has that BioWare charm where you're talking to people and doing dialogue trees and stuff like that. But if you were to compare it to the first 3 Mass Effects, there's no comparison. But I mean, on itself, if you just try and detach yourself from the Shepard arc, I mean, it's fun in its own right. You can get something out of it.
What is it about? Let me go back to Dragon Age 2. Why do you prefer that one over Origins? I have some strong feelings about this. Not that I even disliked 2, but Origins is just, I don't know, it's special to me. Which one did you play first?
I played Origins first.
You did? Okay.
I played Origins probably last year. I had never played Dragon Age until last year, and so I just started
gameplay-wise, it's easier though. I feel like to play Dragon Age 2 is...
I like the combat better in Dragon Age 2, and I felt that it was... what's the word for it? Less cluttered, I guess. I felt like there was... It's not necessarily a good thing that there were less quests and less stuff to do, but it felt like you were more kind of on a set path, and you could take the time to explore the area you were in and then move on. I liked the Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Dragon Age 2, it just felt like a cleaner experience, I guess, less janky, which I understand because it's a newer game, right? But
it felt built for consoles is kind of the way that I would maybe describe it. It wasn't converted from a computer game.
Dragon Age Origins really felt like an MMO that I'd be playing in 2003 or something like that. Like a brand new WoW or something like that. Totally. Dragon Age 2 felt like an actual, like, this is a 360 release. You know what I mean?
I love it.
I'm excited to play Inquisitions. One day I'll jump on.
You haven't played Inquisition yet? Oh my gosh, man! Get into it.
Dragon Ages. So I started last year with Origins. This year I played 2, and once I get far removed from it, I'm doing the same thing with Wolfenstein too. I had never played those until last year, so I'm slowly working through all the Wolfensteins. I'm working through all the Dragon Ages to get myself caught up, and so Inquisitions will probably be coming later this year.
These are the consequences of you signing your life away for 5.5 years.
That's what I tell people is, like, any game that came out between 2015 and 2020, don't talk to me about it. I haven't played it. So I'm really
Inquisition was 2014, I think.
Something like that. And then
like
my senior year of high school, I was more concerned with partying and stuff like that. For sure.
Yeah, that's a factor.
And so, like, there's so many games I got to get caught up in, and that's why I appreciate Game Pass so much, because I can just go to this library. I'm like, oh, all the Wolfensteins are here that all came out within that time period. Cool. I'm going to play all these. So I've been
games are hard, man. I'm not going to lie. Those games are pretty tough.
Yeah, I just played through Wolfenstein 2 last month. And I started on one of the not the hardest, but the one below the hardest. I forget what it was called, but
tough.
The first giant robot thing that makes that bah noise scared the crap out of me. By the way, that's a terrifying thing. I couldn't get past it, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to lower the difficulty a bit.
I love it, man. Oh my gosh, now I just want to play some damn video games. I love it.
I know, right?
Ethan, can I say, do you share your last name? I always see you as Ethan on podcasts and stuff.
I don't have any reason. I think it's easier for people.
I never know what to scream at the start of these shows for when I introduce everybody. So at least I've got that down. Do you want to tell everybody where they can find you on the internet and explain what your Twitter handle is all about, my friend?
Oh yeah, you can find me at WhiteSeaDeer1 on Twitter and Gravy3448 on Xbox. WhiteSeaDeer, for those that don't know, that started because my wife calls me her polar bear, because I'm a fat white guy and I'm really pale. And so she calls me her polar bear. And so I was thinking of like kind of a thing that went along with polar bear. And I'm like, what's a cool name for a polar bear? So I started looking up ancient languages and something like that. And the ancient Viking translation for polar bear is white sea deer.
That's cool.
And so I'm like, I'll run with it. That sounds pretty cool to me. So that's why.
I like that you had the number, like as if somebody else took it first.
Somebody did.
Damn it.
I don't know who it was. It wouldn't let me take white sea deer, so I just put
white sea deer was taken.
Yeah.
Shoot, man. That is that. What a journey you just took me on in that quick story. Like it's just this very sweet, like kind of cuddly kind of thing, and then it's reasons, and then Vikings are in it. I just wanted to recap that. Very cool, man. Project X Talk, I Hate My Friends. Anything else you want to drive people to?
Frame by Frame is our film TV podcast, and No Limits is our new PlayStation podcast. You can find it all on our Save the Game Media Hub on YouTube, and then you can follow us on Twitter at Save Game Media, because Save the Game Media was too long, so we just did Save Game Media.
Love it.
But you can find all the info for our shows on there. We have a website that Aman just made, and I forgot the URL, but I'm pretty sure I can send it to you so you can put it in the show notes for people.
I would love it.
We have our own website that has all of our bios on it. We have some pretty funny bios, some funny pics on there of all of us, so that you guys can get to know us a little better. And that's where you can find us. We have a ton of content coming out. Like we have like 5 spoiler casts ready to go up for different shows and films. We have 4 podcasts going up a week. We have like Patreon specific shows that we're doing for Patreon subscribers now. Once we hit goals and stuff, it's going to be very busy moving forward for us, but it's going to be really, really fun.
I am amazed by the work ethic and the ambition. I respect the hustle, man. I think of you guys. I think of Nintendo Pals definitely like popping up in my mind when it's just like people going for it.
Wow,
and I'm not gonna like, I kind of like, damn, man, like you guys are coming for us, dude. But I'm encouraging you. Keep it up, man. It is so exciting to see. You took me on a journey tonight, and I really appreciate you carving out time, and I appreciate also planning this out months in advance, dude. So thanks for your patience.
I knew this was a popular show, so I'm like, I got to message him so I can get on and get a
it was in May or something that we're like, let's line this up. So
it was right after you did the podcast with us on Project X Talk that
we should keep doing this. We should keep doing this, man.
Absolutely. It'd be fun to be back on. Thank you for having me on, man. It's been a blast.
Sometimes I just hit the record button on the OBS to record the video side of this thing too, and sometimes I do something for producer Ryan, who stitches this all together. So shout out to producer Ryan. But every now and then I give Ryan a little nod. So hopefully you enjoyed that, Ryan. It made myself giggle a little bit. I'm doing a stupid little dance to the music because I can hear it as I record this part. I hear what you guys are hearing. So for whatever that's worth, man, how was that? That was pretty dang good. Ethan, my friend, holy crap. Thanks, sir. I actually thanked him for this. I said this to him directly, but I kind of want to express it to you guys as well. Like, guests like this just make this show so easy to do, man. Like, you just kind of, like, he's so open about the entire thing, and so many of these things that we talked about, I had no idea where we were going to go, especially with, like, strangers from the internet. Like, we don't have previous, like, a ton of previous conversation. I've been on the show with him on Project X Talk. Yes, that's how this whole thing happened. But that's it. Like, when we just talk for 90 minutes, we love space. Who doesn't love space? Holy crap. Starfield hype. It's all in there, man. That was a good time. Back at it, dude. Getting back on the horse. Could have been really discouraged by taking last week off, but no, sir. And man, I actually should have who's on next week. Do we have this lined up? I feel like I want to hype up who's on the show next week. This could be part of like my notes. Oh, look at that. Oh, you guys are in for a treat. I hope this happens. Mark Carabin, my good friend from the other side of Canada. Oh, that's going to be good. That's going to be good. You guys are going to want to stick around. Hit the like button on the video. Subscribe YouTube. Subscribe on podcast feeds. And again, let Ethan know at WhiteSeaDeer1. Let him know that you enjoyed him. If you did on the show, I think that was pretty good. Every time we end We the GamerCast, now I'm putting in a clip of my good friend Bobby Pauls, the Nintendo guru, the late great Nintendo guru, passed away of COVID last year, and this is one of my favorite things that we do now. Really, this is the only show that it happens. And thanks to my good friend Josh Stapleton, we have a tremendous variety of clips to remember Bobby Pauls and my friendship with him. I gotta say, I was gonna watch more videos of him earlier today, and I found it a little bit tough. So, even now, even a year and a half later, just about, it's still tough. So enjoy this clip of me and Bobby. He's giving me the gears about Animal Crossing, and thank you guys for checking out the show. Bye-bye.
And Joel Brooks, and we're all just hanging out for a real long time. And Spoopy says to me, I can't believe that Sean's not playing Animal Crossing. And I go, eventually. She's like, eventually he's going to play, right? I'm like, Sean will never play this game. She's like, why? And I was like, Sean is the most stubborn man that you will ever meet in your life.
Not the most.
Yes, you are. I said, because he said on a podcast that he would never play the game because of a specific reason, and he'll feel like such a hypocrite if he goes against that. And he also knows that I will break his stones if he does go against it, and that's the last thing he wants. So I said, he is not playing it. So she goes, I think he's playing it. He's just not telling anybody.
You imagine?
Could you imagine if somebody...
How would I do that, though? How would I fake... Like, so much of it is the social part of it, of, like, going to somebody else's island and, like, getting their fruit or whatever.
Just go to Chelsea's. You and Chelsea can play
together.
Way.
There's no way.
Could you
There's
imagine?
No way.
Could you imagine?
Holy cow! Let me say this, man. What a game to make such statements about, right? Mm-hmm. The game that sets records. The game that is like it's better than any other Mario or Zelda game, sitting behind the other Smash Brothers games in the first month. Mm-hmm. The game that launches the Nintendo Switch to its best month since it launched. Yeah. For God's sake! And I'm the one going, I'm voting with my wallet.
Yeah.
I'm not going to play.
You also did that with the Switch, and I think that's the problem. You did that with the Switch, and I broke your stone so bad after you caved that I think that you're just like, I don't want to relive that. I don't want to relive that again.
I really don't. And so, for clarity, I bought it day one. I wanted more than one. Look, 1-2 Switch looked like trash, and they came up with this Project Octopath Traveler, which, by the way, people should look up great game, obviously. Yeah. But when they launched that game, all I could think about was, have you ever seen, like, when Colin Moriarty was still with Kind of Funny back then? Yeah. And his reaction to Project Octopath Traveler is the best, dude. I eat a lot of crow, okay?
I love feeding it to you.